Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where I talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the series finale of Teen Wolf. A fantastic finale, a fantastic send-off to the series. I don't even know what I thought was going to be the ending. Obviously, there's certain elements here and there, but I wasn't 100% sure what I thought was going to go down. But I love that the fact is I did walk away surprised with a lot of things that went down. But obviously, just going to slowly break everything down. Do note it's not going to be in any particular order. Whatever comes to my head, I'll spew it out. First thing, it kind of runs at the top of the episode. It's like Deucalion dying. That sucks. It's like we brought him back in season 5 as an ally and everything, brought him back again as an ally just to end up killing him off and everything. Right after he ends up training Scott how to fight blind and everything. I was like, dude, it's like, that sucks. I literally went on a bit of a rant last episode. You're literally killing the only person who can help you fight a Nukete. Who's training Scott, the only person who can take down is a Nukete. But the fact of the matter is Monroe and them are like looking at the hallways later on when everyone else gets kind of turned to stone and everything. So it means like they must be in the know about this whole thing. Like for Monroe, like for her not to do anything, like the others are like, oh my goodness, what did this? It's like, so Gerard probably told him about the Nukete, but they're so focused on wanting to kill Scott, nothing else matters. So it's like, you don't think about I'm serious. Why are none of them talking about what? There's something else doing this. Shouldn't we be focused on that other than these like werewolves and other supernaturals? Let's go after the one that's trying to actively kill us and everyone, because some of our friends have been turned to stone. And we're not going to worry about that. Okay, so I guess that's the whole point, going and this is something that they bring up in the episode, and it's something you see very clearly with Liam, that fear begets anger. Fear helps feed into anger. That's why a lot of these people are driven by their fear, and which turns into anger, why they've been so aggressive and everything. But still, even with all that, I guess, all that hatred fixated on Scott and his pack and his friends, then I guess that's why that whole thing is. But nevertheless, obviously we have the return of Styles and Derek, which I already knew going into this. Not even just because I caught a glimpse of the preview last episode, but when they were showing previews of the season already, I wish I not known that going into it. It's actually funny because this is literally the first time Styles has been in a full episode in this half of the season, because he popped up in the first episode like a tiny bit. But I love him and Derek's story about how they met, and Styles had to make it seem all impact, like, oh yeah, I was brave, I was pulling Derek out there. It's like, no, I literally had to carry you out there. It's like, well, they obliterated my toe, like my toe got caught up in the crossfire. It's like, I love you, Styles. Even at the very end of it all, you're the man. I even love how he talking about, wait, we got to fight this thing blind, and it taps into our biggest fear. Like, what's your greatest fear? He's like, going blind. He's like, yeah, I do realize, almost like the irony behind that situation, like my fear of going blind, having to fight the same blind. Yeah, I love how they kind of have to run down and explain everything, and even Lydia's like, he's like, so you guys wait till now to not really tell me anything. It's like, well, we had a good reason. Yeah, we had a good reason. I don't know whether that's supposed to be like an inside thing with the show, being like, yeah, we had a good reason for not telling you. A good, almost like a look at the screen and wait, good reason, because, Dylan O'Brien, at the time filming other stuff at the time. So, that's what, I think if you read too deeply into it, you can take it as that, but nevertheless. Some other things that went down in this episode is the whole Gerard situation in general, with Kate showing up. It didn't correlate in my head. I'm like, oh, what's she looking for yellow wolfsbane for? She already got, Monroe had some, didn't she have some? And then, oh, right, she gave it to her dad. I thought she was going to be the one to take the shot at Scott. It's like, nope, her dad did. And he gave it to Monroe. And even she's like, what the F, Dad? What? It was meant, why you gave it to her? I guess it's supposed to balance. It's so crazy because even RJ told her last episode, he's not going to look at you the same way. But I guess on some level, she wanted her daddy's love. And it's like, hey, I gave you this. You can take out Scott with this. And it's like, oh, rather than him doing it himself, or rather entrusting the job to Kate, he gave it to Monroe. Because at the end of the day, he probably accepted, oh, I love you. And the moment she turned her back and now she's asking for it, he shoots her. Because it's like, what do you expect? You're not my daughter anymore. You're one of yeah, you're my daughter, sure, but you're one of them first and foremost. And it's just like, I was like, that's got to sting on multiple levels. Not only your dad shoot you, he didn't trust you, but like on some level, she acted like it wasn't about Gerard when in actuality it was. I mean, it's something that even Gerard himself goes back to. It's like he's like, yeah, oh, this is all. Tell me, you know it. Like the reason why you're failing now is because you spent so much time focused on Scott. You're talking about your family and stuff. Your family's right here, but you've been so focused on trying to kill Scott. He's like, he destroyed our family. It's like the one who destroyed your family was you. I mean, you and Kate kind of went off your. Once again, if you want to really break things down, Scott didn't do anything. This started when Kate went after Peter and his family prematurely. You know, they hadn't done anything, killed them, man, women, and child. So it's like, if anyone started this, it was Kate, you know, but then Scott came along. Once again, the Argent family kind of fell apart because Argent kind of joined his side. Then, you know, Scott foiled his plans, not once, but twice. And then, you know, the whole Allison situation. So it's just one blow after another day. He took all his rage and stuff out on Scott. And I guess Kate did the same thing. I mean, except at the end, she ended up killing her dad, apparently. What's surprised about that? I was like, oh, wow. I was like, is Argent going to be the one to put him down? It's like, nope. It's going to end up being Kate, which we won't see her for the rest of the episode. So it does make you wonder, is she going to come after him anymore? I mean, this also means there's no Gerard in the future, so that's something taken care of. But it's just kind of like, because, you know, I'm sure for Argent or Chris, but like I said, he'll always be Papa Argent to me. But I guess for Argent, it's like no matter what, it was always supposed to end like this because he's given his dad's been around for too long. Ever since season 2, he's been around like in the shadows, giving help and stuff like that. He tried to screw him over with the Beast situation. Failed there. Argent still didn't take him down. But now it's like, no, like after everything you've done, declaring war on all supernaturals, coming after the people I care about that are my friends and allies, no more. So it was always going to end this way. So, but I do wonder what it means going forward for Kate and Argent. Like, what is there any love there, or what's Kate going to do going forward? You know, probably another highlight moment for me is Jackson and Lydia meeting again after so long. Because Jackson's like, "Whoa, Lydia, you did?" I was like, "Right," because he wasn't around when the whole Banshee thing happened, did he? I don't think he did. Oh, yeah, she was already. Was she? She was in the processes of becoming a Banshee in season 2, like, because Peter was tapping into, like, her powers and everything as a Banshee. But even then, like, the whole, like, being able to focus her scream and everything, she didn't learn that until, like, back in season 5. Yeah, well, the whole Eichenhouse situation, that's when she really learned how to, but it's like, I don't think even he really got to experience the whole her as a Banshee thing, but nevertheless, I just love the most. She's like, Jackson, she's like, she's screaming and hugs him and everything. And it stopped. Like, okay, that's enough. Don't need to be all touching all of your ex-boyfriend like that. You know, we're a thing and everything. And then Jackson's like, I'm looking for Ethan. Oh, why are you with Ethan? You know, because we're together. It's like, and then you have Styles keep saying, Ethan. And she's like, and Lydia's like, oh my God. I was wondering when you were going to figure it out. I thought you'd never figure it out. It's like, of course, Lydia, of course, because that was Lydia. It's interesting too. And I think this kind of major props to Holland Roden. I'm sure the writers for this too. But in that moment, I feel like she slipped into more like Lydia from season 1. Because Lydia now is very different from who she was then. She was all about, you know, she was Miss Popular in high school, and you know, because she always kind of played down how super smart she was too, and that was something Styles had pointed out in like the beginning of the series. Like, you hide the fact is that you're like really smart. She's just kind of like queen bee, like super popular. But I feel like she slipped into that a little bit, just her demeanor and everything, and just the way she. I feel like she hasn't talked like that in a while. I don't know what it is. It's just like a little bit of like season 1. Lydia kind of snuck in there, at least in my opinion, you know. So also interesting thing too about Jackson is the whole kinema thing. I do like that he can actually shift his eyes into his kinema eyes, and he still has a tail and everything. I thought that's kind of interesting. He can't fully transform, so that was just kind of a nice little detail to add it in. Obviously, he can seep his kinema venom through his claws and everything, and he can change his eyes, and he can use his tail. And even Lydia was kind of bringing it up, like, "Wait, you still have the tail?" And Ethan's like, "Yeah, it's pretty gnarly, right?" And it was like gnarly in a disgusting way, but that was just kind of an interesting, just like small detail to bring up. I mean, granted, it's not small because it ended up helping him get away, but that's just an interesting thing, just to add that layer. I think that's so interesting because, like I said, we've never really seen double up species in this series, other than Jackson, which he's the second one. The first one was Mr. Douglas from the first half of the season, who was I keep forgetting his name. Lauermich. He was like a wolf and a tiger or something like that. But even then, we never really got to see like what that really meant. I guess like power wise, he had the two of them together, nevertheless. But it's like in this situation, you got to see like what it was really capable of, like being both a werewolf and a Kinemon, being able to tap into both sides of himself like that. It did seem like changing his eyes. It did seem like it was kind of a bit of a struggle. Because it's probably not natural as like his werewolf side. It's kind of like unnatural. It's like shift. It's trying to do a trick that you haven't done in years to kind of do it again after not really doing it for so long. I guess I just thought that was kind of interesting. And also MVP of the episode, obviously being Coach, coming through to the end, like after Jackson and Ethan were free, and Coach came in like beating the guy up, and it's like now it's over. He's like, good seeing you, Coach. It's like, you too, Jackson, and walk away. It's like, you literally popped up in the episode to save the day. Which, to be fair, ain't the first time Coach has done it. He's come through multiple times in the past. It's just out of nowhere. It's just a little bit of, there's Coach. Where was he? Probably at some point got turned to stone in the moment they got freed. That's my estimation of it. But it's just like he popped out of nowhere. So I can only assume, since it's nighttime at school, that's what happened. He got turned to stone as well by the thing. And speaking of, because it's an aspect of it I do constantly forget. It is a shapeshifter. It's always been, it plays into your fears, but it never correlated in my head. It's like, oh yeah, of course that shapeshifter aspect will also play into different people's fear. Like, it taps into not just your fear, well, I guess more so your fears, like, because it took on the form of Malia for Peter, and I guess or at least it sounded like her, and I guess it's because maybe Peter has a deep-seated fear of losing Malia forever now. She's back in his life. He's just scared of screwing things up. For Derek, it took on the form of Jennifer. Wasn't Jennifer's last name Blake? The druid from the first half of season. Yeah, the first half of season 3. Because I guess for Derek, it's like he never wants to be that vulnerable again. So I guess that's what his fear. That's, I just thought that was kind of interesting. I saw the actress's name, Haley Webb. I was like, that seems so familiar. And I was like, is that the druid from season 3? Turned out to be the case. But it took on the different forms for different people. There was a moment where like Scott like kind of heard Lydia's banshee scream. So I don't know whether what that was like. Was that Lydia kind of tapping into the fact that Scott needed her, and she just shouted out to kind of make him kind of focus a little more, kind of not listen to this day. But it took on the different forms. It took on the form of Styles. At first I was like, oh, is this Fear Styles? It's like, no, it specifically took over the form of Styles when he was possessed by the Nagitsune. And I love the fact this is shifted back and forth between Styles and the banished up Nagitsune form, because like his greatest fear is losing his best friend again, because that's probably like easily one of the scariest moments for him, like besides what went down in the first half of the season. His greatest fear was losing Styles. That's why they didn't involve him throughout this whole situation. So, but then it took on the form of other people attacking him. It took on the form of different adversaries. What were they called again? The Firefly things. Are they Fireflies? I forgot what they were called. The things that Kira's mom like had her tails, like you snapped them and then like came the shadow. I forgot what they were called again. It's been such a long time. It took on the form of that, a berserker, something else too. I didn't quite catch the last thing it took the form of, but Scott was on the losing end. I mean, especially because he got shot with the Yellow's Wolf Fae. But I did not see it coming when him stabbing himself in the eyes like that. I was like, whoa, what? That was brutal, and it was like super bloody too, and like blood is literally pouring off his fingers from it. And it's like I was not expecting him to do that. But I was actually surprised with how they defeated it too, because they're like, yeah, there's no way you can actually beat this thing. Because that was the whole thing. It can't be killed per se. But then I was like, but then this guy explained, like, it's like, okay, he has Styles to get something. I was like, what was it he needed Styles to get? And it's like, yeah, this thing is a shapeshifter. It tries so hard to be a shapeshifter. One face is human, one face is supernatural. And because it is a shapeshifter like them, it wants to be a shapeshifter like them, it still has to follow the same rules as a shapeshifter, as in werewolves are bound by mountain ash. And so this thing falls under that same principle too. So threw a whole bunch of mountain ash at it, and it ultimately killed it because it surrounded it in it. It seemed like it just turned it to stone, so it's probably like forever petrified. But the moment, I mean, it's dead, so, but I don't know whether to me it looked like it just petrified, but maybe it petrified and fell apart. But nevertheless, everyone got returned back to normal afterwards. So, I mean, it's not even just that. There's a whole thing that went down at the hospital with Gabe. Wasn't expecting things to kind of end the way they did for Gabe. I feel bad for him because basically Hunter was aiming for both him and, hey, you just happened to be in the way, and just like he didn't even stop, he just unloaded on Gabe. Like, okay, see, didn't stop there, which kind of felt bad for him. But at the end, I did appreciate the fact that Theo did come over and like take his pain away, and it's like, oh, that's sweet, kind of showing that there is something happening within Theo. Like, I do appreciate, like, because this final seasons have been show, like this final season in general has been showing him progressing. There's still the aspect of like, okay, you're still selfish and stuff like that, but I think this is setting up that going forward, yeah, he's kind of been an enemy from time to time, and that's something that the end of the episode kind of alludes to too. Like, hey, even enemies are now, allies too. So Theo and Peter, we're going to count on them when the time comes, because what I really appreciate the most about this entire situation is the fact is that it wasn't like something like, oh, it's done, everybody goes back to their normal lives. It's like, no, this is a continuous thing, because Monroe got away, she built up an army, so the whole wiping out supernatural things is still ongoing. Even though the series is complete, the fact of the matter is they left it open-ended to be like, there's still more story to tell. Scott's story may be over for us to see, but there's still so much more to tell. Because to me, I thought they were setting it all up to be like, Scott goes off, enjoys everything, and especially like they kind of ended off like that during the first half of the season, to be like, okay, everyone's off to college and everything, and like Liam and Hayden and Mason are going to be there to take care of Beacon Hills. But it's like, nah, like it's like we're not just stopping there. This is a full blown, like, we're not backing down. Monroe wants to fight, we'll take the fight to her, we'll gather up everyone, and we won't stop until we take them all down. So I just thought that was kind of an interesting thing. Also, neat little thing too, like at the hospital, I think it was Parrish is there with Scott's dad and Sheriff Zelensky, and it's like, he's like, Parrish, make them drop their guns. It's like, okay, and he summons up his fire and burns up, heats up the weapons, and they have to drop them. And Scott says, like, yeah, you're gonna have to teach me how to do that trick. It's like, is that the first time he's ever done that before? Channeled his powers like that? I just thought that was kind of interesting. But I also gotta give mad props to Zelensky too, because they're like, okay, show me some respect. You're a deputy, I'm the sheriff. And they're like, what are you, like 60? And he proceeded to kick all three of their asses. So now, if you don't mind, get Parrish out of there. He's like, yes, sir, sheriff. It's like, yeah, you're damn right, sheriff. I was just like, dude. And also, like, kind of having Nolan kind of have a turnaround too. And the fact is that him and Liam are like, hey, even, he worked with Melissa to kind of help Liam and them take care of everything at the hospital, kind of help take back the hospital and everything. So to me, I mean, it's so interesting. Like I said, everything went full circle, and just everyone, like, it has a very nicely like tied up ending, like I said, but there's still the whole aspect of like, there can definitely be more story to tell. But I like the fact that they ended the way they did, because obviously it starts off at the beginning with like him meeting up, tracking down and helping a kid named Alec, who's a werewolf too. And it's like, hey, coming into this war is almost like bringing in a new player into his pack and everything. He's like, he's like, are they also something else too? He's like, some of them, others are humans who are, make up for it because they're, take a style, for example, who's super smart and come through, when the time comes for a fight. He's like, they're my friends, they're my pack. And I was like, yeah. I'm getting so damn giddy. So also had Melissa and Argent, meeting up together, making out, of course. Like I said, I would still say that. I think that's kind of funny, because in my head, I always imagined it was going to be Melissa and Sheriff Zelensky. I don't know, just because Scott and Styles are already brothers already, so it's just kind of like, I don't know, I thought that was the direction it was going to head, but then like the whole Argent thing kind of caught me off. I was like, oh. I think last season was the first time they really tapped into that, if I remember it correctly. I might be remembering that wrong, but I think that was the first time they really dove into that, like pointed out like, oh. Maybe previous seasons I kind of alluded to it and I'm just not remembering right now. But nevertheless, I mean, obviously with most series finales, this gives you that feeling of like, I want to see more. I don't ever want the adventures to end, But, because even from the beginning, Scott knew this whole situation stopping in the Anukite, because I was about to call it the Nukitsune. Even he knew stopping it still wasn't going to be enough to stop Monroe, because her hatred ran deep. And the same thing for Gerard, but he knew it would stop other people who were fueled by fear and rage. But it does seem like most people have calmed down, and like, people turned over their guns and everything, because not everyone wanted to be a part of this. You saw, for example, with that girl Sydney, like she definitely didn't want to like be a part of this whole situation, but there are a lot of people, Gerard probably automatically knew that they wanted to, but it's like not everyone wanted to. There's some people who are a lot more for it, but everything so far, it seems like everything kind of went back to normal, and now it's the big secret in Beacon Hills is out. Like, there are supernaturals amongst you, but it's like, hey, who cares? We're all in this together, kind of unity. So it's still something you'd like to see, like going forward, like, oh, like that balance of supernaturals and humans kind of coexisting and stuff like that. Beacon Hill being like the heart of that, and maybe going forward, like with his pack behind him, Scott. I think I was about to literally call him Tyler Posey and everything, but goes and takes care, and kind of spreads that around throughout. Like, it doesn't seem like it's just allocated to where they are. It seems like they're probably going to go all out, all over the place, because you have Ethan and Jackson back in London. So I'm a little shocked that like Corey and Mason weren't there at the end, but whatever, you take what you can get, I guess, so like I kind of typically do with like a lot of things, I do wish the best of luck to everyone involved in the show, from cast, crew, writers, creators, just everyone that had anything to do with the show. I love and adore this show so much. It's easily one of the few shows I can say like I've watched since the very beginning, since it first aired on MTV, so I'm saddened to see it end, but it has been a wild and crazy and amazing ride. But really, that's all I want to talk about in this episode. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.